But I'm very happy to have this chance to share some ideas with you all about the bitter lesson, the bitter AI research. This was a little history, first presented actually to 2018, severely upset some of the scientists that were present, then published in 2019, went viral on Twitter, and has become almost like a mini legend. It's sort of a lesson in publicity, but I don't know how it did become popular. It's just 1.5 pages, and I urge you all to read it. But since it contains within itself its own summary, the rest of the slide is actually a quote directly from the bitter lesson. So the bitter lesson is based on the historical observations that, number one, researchers have often tried to build knowledge into their agents. This has always helped in the short term and is personally satisfying to the researcher. But in the long run, it plateaus and even inhibits further progress, and breakthrough progress then eventually occurs by an opposing approach based on scaling computation by search and learning. This is the bitter lesson. You can see why it's bitter, because the researcher had their own preferred method that started working but then was superseded by other approaches. So this has happened over and over again. It happened in computer chess, it happened in computer vision, it happened in language processing. It happened long before large language models. The earliest approaches to language were based on linguistics, and that was superseded by methods based on phonetics and on hidden Markov models, other statistical approaches. And then, of course, in the modern era, it's been totally dominated by methods based on just machine learning and massive computation and large-scale databases of the whole internet. So this is, it is though a historical lesson. It's not a law of physics or science. It doesn't have to happen again. But on the other hand, it has happened so many times in the past 70 years of AI research that we have to be cognizant of this repeated pattern and suspect that it will happen again. So this is the question that I wanted to pose to us all, to you all, as people interested in large language models and in foundation models. Does the bitter lesson, will it also apply to foundation models? And to address this question, it's also useful to summarize it even further. So here, I've recently tried to summarize it in just 26 words, put this a tweet on X a few weeks ago. In short, don't be distracted by human knowledge, as AI has been historically. Instead, focus on methods that will scale, focus on methods that create knowledge, not try to take advantage of existing human knowledge, so that you can scale with search and learn. So does it apply to large language models? Does it apply to foundation models? Or as it's been put, are large language models bitter lesson pilled? And the answer is briefly yes and no. First, large language models have found a way to greatly scale computation to take advantage of the massive computation that's now available and the data sets, the massive data sets that are now available on the internet. So you could say that to bring us to where we are today is an example that has been widely interpreted as being cognizant of a bitter lesson and finding a way to scale. But on the other hand, it's also transparently true that large language models and foundation models are based on human knowledge. That's their power. Their superpower is human knowledge, human data, and that's, and so possibly, and I'm going to say likely today, they are held back and they will be held back. And I suspect, yeah, in the long run, they will be superseded, as has been the historical pattern, because they rely entirely on existing human knowledge rather than trying to create or be aware of human knowledge. So be aware of the complexities.
雷锋网线已上线 IC 苗、ICRA、CVP、RICML、RSS、WAICIG、CAI 等顶会专区，专区以系统性整合顶会的论文解读、报告全文、专家 PPT， 进入专区直达经过筛选的深度内容。未来我们还将上线 ACL、Newer Apps 等多种学术顶会专区，快来扫码抢先锁定。